Good evening and welcome to the January 3rd, 2023 regular meeting of the Mayor and City Council. First meeting of 2023. Hope everyone had a happy new year. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to invite Janice Hartman, our Director of Finance Administration, to lead us in the pledge. If everyone could please rise. Join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Janice. Appreciate that. Next item on our agenda is reflection, and I'd like to call for a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is approval of minutes. Tonight we have 4 sets of minutes to approve. The first one is from the work session on Monday, November 28th. What's the pleasure of the council?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. And
I abstain, Mr. Mayor.
1 abstention. So that carries 4-0 with 1 abstention from Councilmember Spiegel. Next, we have the minutes from Monday, December 5th. Regular session. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries 5-0. Next, we have the minutes from the work session on Monday, December 12th. What is the pleasure of the council?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, carries 5-0. And last, we have the minutes from the regular session on Tuesday, December 27th. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Carries 5-0. Thank you very much. Next, we're going to move into presentations, and I would like to invite the Gaithersburg Youth Services Division representatives to come join me at the podium. Doris had this thing down. Hello. You guys just line up back. Hello? Maureen?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Tonight, we are celebrating the tremendous volunteer work of our city's Youth Services Division and Gaithersburg Youth Club and Student Union. We're thrilled that you're all here with us. Our wonderful youth provide thousands of hours of service to our city each year in a variety of ways, including through our annual holiday giving program, stream cleanups, and winter lights. Our youth are a true example of commitment to service. The city is proud to issue a proclamation tonight to honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and to encourage participation in the county-wide Martin Luther King Volunteer Center opportunities posted both during this special week and throughout the year. The Montgomery County Volunteer Center is excited to offer the Martin Luther King Week of Service 2023 and continue the tradition of honoring Dr. King through service. 2023 marks the first year the Montgomery County Volunteer Center has been able to have an in-person event since 2020. The center will still be offering a virtual option for service for those that are not able to attend the in-person events. If you are interested in leading a service project at your own site and want to recruit volunteers, please contact the Volunteer Center or email at servicedays@montgomerycountymd.gov for assistance. And we'd like to issue the proclamation.
All
Thank you,
right.
Mayor.
I will read that. Proclamation of the Mayor and City Council of Gaithersburg. Whereas the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. dedicated his life to the advancement of the fundamental principles of freedom, opportunity, and equal justice for all. And whereas Dr. King promoted nonviolence and compassion and his leadership and vision continues to inspire millions of Americans who strive toward his dream of civil equality. And whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day honors his legacy and provides an opportunity for reflection and action in keeping with his determination to eliminate discrimination and break down barriers to access and participation. And whereas Montgomery County is hosting a week of service opportunities for volunteers to help the community's most vulnerable, keeping with the spirit of Dr. King's message of nurturing an equitable and inclusive society. Now, therefore, I, Judd Ashman, by the power vested in me as mayor of Gaithersburg, do hereby proclaim the week of January 16 through 23 as a week of service in the city of Gaithersburg to honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and encourage all residents to consider participating in service projects that strengthen our community and foster a spirit of equality and inclusiveness, not only during this week, but throughout the year. Proclaim this third day of January 2023, signed by me. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Everybody's down.
I think they
It's
want
like front,
us
like
to
two.
stand for these.
Okay, ready, everybody, 1, 2, 3.
Who's they? I mean, we're the council.
Gotta give you a little bit.
I know. So now half of us are up, half of us are down.
I think I'm in motion.
I may be too. I think I'm.
Thank you, guys.
It'd be a great.
Appreciate
a great
you being
crowd.
with us.
Yeah.
All right, and now I would like to invite the members of the Gaithersburg Financial Wellness Coalition and Financial Empowerment Center staff to come join me up here. And Leslie, I'll have you read the background material.
Thank you. Don't be shy.
Today, we ask for a proclamation in that the city recognizes Financial Wellness Month in January as part of our holistic approach to increasing financial stability and well-being of Gaithersburg residents. Financial Wellness Month is a time to assess your finances, income, and debt and make plans to achieve your financial goals. The city provides tools, education, and resources to support financial health for all Gaithersburg families. The Financial Wellness Coalition provides financial education and helps people access low-cost banking products. The city works with Montgomery County Community Action Agency to provide free tax preparation at KC Community Center. And the Gaithersburg Financial Empowerment Center provides free financial counseling that is helping residents pay down debt, improve their credit scores, and use budgeting tools to save for their future. Together, we can all help families improve their financial stability and achieve their dreams.
Proclamation of the Mayor and City Council of Gaithersburg. Whereas Financial Wellness Month reminds us to start the new year by focusing on financial well-being and setting financial goals for the year to come. And whereas all families can benefit from assessing their financial health, creating a budget, reviewing credit reports and debt, and setting financial goals helps families be resilient and prepared for emergencies. Establishing and maintaining good financial health improves stability and makes dreams like home ownership and comfortable retirement a reality. And whereas the City of Gaithersburg, through its Financial Wellness Coalition and new Financial Empowerment Center, provides tools and support and resources to help families improve their financial well-being. All residents can access free, confidential financial counseling provided by the Financial Empowerment Center to improve financial health and well-being. Now, therefore, I, Judd Ashman, by the power vested in me as Mayor of Gaithersburg, do hereby proclaim January 2023 as Financial Wellness Month in the city of Gaithersburg, and join with the members of the Gaithersburg Financial Wellness Coalition, the Gaithersburg Financial Empowerment Center, and our partners to encourage residents to take time to assess their financial health, setting themselves on a path to future prosperity. Proclaim this third day of January 2023 and signed by me. Let's give them a round of applause.
Nobody's up, so I'm staying down. Are we staying? Okay, we're staying.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
We'll be much better on
Now that we know we're supposed to do it.
It's the first one, David. We'll get that.
I heard they said they wanted rabbit ears too.
Okay, possibly. I don't think Judd said that, but.
Okay. Next, I'm going to invite Janice Hartman and Chris Lehman from our audit partner to the table to present to us the required communications. It's so funny, this government language. I'm going to spoil it. Some very good news about the city's financial reporting as given to us by our auditors.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. The city has completed the audit for the FY22 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, known as the ACFR. The ACFR was completed and filed with the state by the October 31st deadline. These documents are available on the city's website under the Finance Department. The audit of the city's schedule of federal expenditures is still underway. A single audit is an organization-wide financial statement and federal awards audit of a non-federal entity that expends $750,000 or more of federal funds in 1 year. In FY22, the general fund, which is the primary operating fund of the city, showed an increase in fund balance of $14.3 million compared to a budgeted increase of $0.4 million. The increase is due to various revenue sources outperforming budgeted amounts, coupled with delays in expenses, including new hires and maintenance projects. Some of the notable revenue overages included $1.7 million in income taxes, $1.2 million in income tax duplication revenue, and $4.3 million in permitting revenue. Overall, the governmental fund balance increased $10.8 million to $163.9 million. The city saw the return of many pre-pandemic programs during FY22 and expects these activities and associated revenues to continue to move towards pre-pandemic levels in FY23. While FY22 began to see the impact of high inflation, the city was able to finish the year in a strong position with stable revenue growth and prudent financial decisions. The city's FY21 financial report received the Government Finance Officer Association, GFOA's Certificate of Achievement and Excellence in Financial Reporting for the 44th consecutive year. The certificate is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting. Finance submitted the FY22 ACFR to this award program for consideration as well. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the entire Finance Department for their outstanding work throughout the entire year to ensure that we have a successful audit. I have Chris Lehman, our audit partner with SB & Company, the city's external auditing firm, here to complete the required audit communications and answer any questions about the audit process, and I will turn it over to Chris now.
All right, well, thank you, Janice, and good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Chris Lehman. I was the audit partner this year on the engagement, as well as I have Bill Seymour, who was our engagement partner. And I have some just brief comments I'll make about the results of the audit. Included in your packet, starting on page 28, I have a presentation that I'll walk through here, as well as sharing that on the screen here. Moving to page 30 of the packet, we've completed an audit of the June 30, 2022 financial statements for the city. In addition, we do provide limited assistance with drafting the financial statements. That is a non-attest service, but that is a service we can give under professional standards that does not impair our independence. In addition, as Janice mentioned, we will be completing a uniform guidance single audit, which is required by any entity that expends more than $750,000 per year of federal funding. And because of the ARPA money that's been received, that will trigger a single audit requirement for the city. In addition, with issuing the financial statements, the state of Maryland also requires an annual Uniform Financial Report, or UFR for short. That's also required to be submitted to the state upon completion of the audit. That has also been completed and issued on a timely basis. Once the single audit's completed, we'll also complete a federal data collection form, which lets the federal government know that the city has met its requirements or its duties required for the single audit. On this slide here, included on page 31, is just a high-level summary of the results of the audit. First, we've issued a clean, or what's termed unmodified, opinion on the financial statements. That's the best opinion we could give under professional standards. and that says that the financial statements are reasonably free of material misstatement. It uses a lot more words than that, but it's a good opinion. We did not discover any instances of fraud in the audit. A financial statement audit, it's not a forensic audit, but we are required to have a healthy skepticism that fraud could be perpetrated by anyone at any time. We did not discover any material weaknesses in any of the internal controls that we've relied upon, and I have a slide coming up that'll just walk you through at a high level what those significant internal control processes were. In addition, we received the full cooperation of management, so any questions that we had or records that we requested backup for, we obtained timely answers, we obtained adequate backup, just very timely responses and getting things that we needed to get through the audit. We're still in the process of completing the single audit, but to date, we're not aware of any findings that would be required to be in the single audit. In addition, we didn't have any audit journal entries posted, so that just speaks to the quality of your accounting system and your general ledger throughout the year. And it's not like it takes the year-end audit to clean up the numbers or report accurate figures. And then lastly, there was a new accounting standard required to be implemented. GASB 87 deals with leases, which the city has implemented that. Did not have a material impact on the financial statements, but that is an item that management had implemented, and we assisted with reviewing the implementation of that standard. Any questions so far? Okay. This slide here on 32 just shows the 4 key phases of the audit, which includes the planning process, preliminary testing, final field work, and our financial reporting and wrap-up. The significant amount of time really takes in the preliminary testing phase, and that's where we assess the internal controls, both from doing walkthroughs and understanding how the city has designed its controls that impact the financial statements, and then secondly, doing testing of transactions to make sure those transactions have been recorded in the financial statements timely and accurately. And then the next largest piece of the audit, the final field work, once management's closed the books, booked all the year-end journal entries, we audit the year-end financials and take the trial balances and validate cash, do certain balance sheet testing and analytics on the revenues and the expenditures. This is just another kind of picture of our risk-based audit approach, and really the audit's designed like a funnel to basically filter out risk from beginning of the process to ultimately issuing the report. And the next slide that I'm about to go over would be our conclusion on the second phase here, where we spend a significant amount of time assessing the design and the operation of the internal controls. So on this slide here, if you look to the left, a part of looking at the control structures, we consider the operating environment that the city operates in, primarily from processes that are going to impact the financial statements. And there's 5 interrelated components that we looked at that are listed on the left side here. We've concluded that the city had an effective environment for the year. So like I said, we didn't have any material weaknesses or deficiencies that we noted, which typically we would identify those in looking at the key processes and how those processes impact the financial statements. And then kind of taking that down a step further, looking at specific key processes that impact the financial statements. You'll see these items listed here, but really looking at each process from origination, whether that's hiring a new individual, making sure they get set up with the proper pay rates, looking at a department needing to make a purchase and having proper authorizations from origination through actually paying the vendor, kind of looking at the whole cycle of those key processes. And we've concluded that both the design and the operation of those key processes were effective for the period under audit. The last few slides are either firm or industry required communications. I mentioned some of these at the beginning where we didn't identify any fraud, we didn't have any material weaknesses or anything like that. And I won't read through each one of these points. But really, if we had any difficulties getting through the audit, if the city had very aggressive accounting policies or barely acceptable accounting policies, I'd be required to bring that to your attention. If we had any disagreements with management regarding the accounting or the treatment of anything within your financial statements, I'd be required to bring that to your attention. Really, nothing of a negative nature that I would need to bring to your attention through the completion of the audit. You'll see just some of the other items listed here, and the only item I would just mention again, the non-attest service with assisting with drafting the financial statements. We just have to make sure we're not maintaining source data or making any sort of management type decisions in doing that, and we've made sure that that was not the case, and we maintain our independence with management when we do assist with some limited assistance with drafting the financial statements. And then lastly, I've got both my contact information as well as Bill's contact information. That way, if there's any questions or concerns that any of you have, either about the audit or something that could impact the audit, we make ourselves available to you all, as well as management, really anytime throughout the year. Don't feel like you'll get an additional bill or anything for giving us a call, but we want to make sure we're providing value and of service as needed throughout the year. So we do have our information there. And then just the last thing I'll mention is included further back in the packet, and I don't know if it's not included in this presentation, but starting back on page 157, we have issued a formal letter with our required communication. So it's a little repetitive of what I have in the presentation, but it is a more formal letter that, again, we didn't find any fraud. We didn't have any difficulties getting through the audit. But you do also have that letter that we've issued in conjunction with this presentation here. And we weren't planning on, since we didn't have any material weaknesses or deficiencies, there won't be any sort of management letter or any letter that'll have any sort of negative comments or anything from that perspective. So with that, I'll just open it up if there's any questions or comments.
Comments. Chris, first, and Bill, thank you so much for serving this role for us as an outside firm. I think I say this every year. I mean, we are responsible for assets and for managing all of the assets and the responsibilities and providing services to the residents and stakeholders of the city of Gaithersburg, and we put out reporting as everybody is required to do, and we are required to have that reporting verified. It's important for the public. It's an important service for the public that this information is verified. And it's great to see that once again we've gotten this. I love audit speak, this unmodified opinion. It means we're essentially means we're verified. I understand you guys have to understate it a little bit,
right?
But we appreciate that, and I think it's a great testament to Janice and her leadership and her team in our finance department. And 44 straight years of the highest level government reporting award is nothing to sneeze at. I think it's something that we're all proud of, and we should be. We should be proud of it. So thank you for that. Any questions or comments? Otherwise, Tanisha, please, go ahead.
I just want to also congratulate Janice and her team. Just a quick reminder that the finance department has weathered a fair bit of transition, which Janice has seen us through. And the audit is a major undertaking, which used to fall squarely on her responsibility as controller for the city. And then as she became promoted to finance director, she still had that responsibility because we had not yet backfilled that position. So I just want to really thank you publicly, Janice, for your leadership and all of your extra hours and hard work to be sure that not only the audit process was smooth, but really the audit is just a check on everything that we already do. And I think the audit exemplifies all of the work that you and your team have done. So thank you.
Excellent. Okay, appreciate it.
All right, well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is public comments. This is the time the mayor and council like to hear from anybody from the public who'd like to speak on any topic that's not a public hearing. And tonight, we actually do have a public hearing. Just remind myself what this is. This is about police accountability. So if you're here to speak on that, then just hold off because we're going to get to the public hearing next. But if you want to speak on anything else, we ask to keep your comments no more than 3 minutes. If you have more than 3 minutes worth of material, by all means, use your 3 minutes and send us the rest in writing, and we'll consider it just like oral testimony. State your name and address or neighborhood if you prefer for the record. Carl, looks like you want to come up and speak. Come on up. And if anybody else wants to, come right after Carl. And I'm going to check and see Zoom. Go ahead, Carl.
Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Carl Van Nest. I live in Gaithersburg. I'm a 30-year resident. And I can sincerely say that I'm proud to be a Gaithersburg resident. Thank you for making time for me today. Congratulations on your great financial success. I have several things I'd like to talk to today. The first is I've been working on an anti-salt petition. I think I've shared that with you. And I'm going to ask my representatives to do several things. One is to start tracking salt in terms of pounds per single lane mile. I talked about this in the past. We've had some correspondence back and forth. I hope everybody understands it. If you don't, get back in touch with me. I'm willing to talk about it. The next thing is we want to get private organizations to train their employees on how best to use salt, and that they should start tracking their use of salt and reporting it. Lastly, we need to clean up excess salt. The day after a storm, excess salt is the salt that you see. If you throw rock salt on the ground, you must be able to clean up the excess salt. As adults, we naturally clean up after ourselves. Currently, there are several prominent community leaders that have signed a petition. We have over 235 of your neighbors, not all Gaithersburg, some Rockville, other local areas. Feel free to sign it. Winter salt is a problem, and professionally managing is part of the solution. Gaithersburg does a very good job handling salt and distributing salt during the winter. From what I could see, you did a great job in December. And that might mean maybe you didn't put anything down. I know that the state did. I know that a lot of private organizations did for nothing. I wish the state and Montgomery County would do as good a job as you have. I'd like Gaithersburg, in addition to the salt metrics that they capture right now, to also capture it in terms of pounds per single lane mile. And I'd like you to report your salt use on the website. I think it's a simple, inexpensive request, and performing it starting this winter would be helpful for environmentalists to see what's going on, so that Gaithersburg can lead in this effort. Secondly, Lake Veruna is still a mess. I drove past it, and you can see the garbage in the one corner. I shared photos with you last time I was here. I hope you repeat these in the city record. The lake is still filthy. Can we put a garbage can in the corner that I've mentioned? Like many shopping centers, Festival has rat traps behind it. And all along the West Side Drive, there's garbage on the street. You can just drive up and down the street and see the garbage. We need to do something about that. We don't seem to have the same problem at Wesley and the Woods and Washingtonian Woods and the Kentlands neighborhoods. They all have trash cans near the neighborhood entrance. I know these areas, cleanliness is a key function of government. We need to make sure that we keep things clean. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have anybody else who'd like to speak this evening? David, come on up.
Thanks. Good evening. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
David Mullins, live at the Gateway Apartments on Clapper Road. I'm also a tenant on the Landlord-Tenant Commission. I really just want to put something on y'all's radar. I know we've had discussions about rent stabilization in the past, and I think we've talked about how that might be coming up for the county and things, and I'm sure that will go on. I want to shift and just mention rent relief tonight, just as like an issue, a concept to put on your radar, because I think the writing on the wall is the county rent relief program is going to be ending, and if not just permanently, looking at other jurisdictions like Fairfax and places, the money will run out eventually. As I do tenant outreach for work, and so there's a lot of people who are still behind, but have income, but are not catching up as fast as the court cases are coming. And so I just want to mention, there's evictions are loud public things that happen, but there's people that are leaving quietly. We have 750 or so people at the Gateway. We only have 12 units in our building, and 2 of those 12 have just quietly left. And I know one of them had kids at Thurgood Marshall. And, so if we can, as a city, if we're doing well and we want to maybe prioritize this and start thinking about funding some rent relief, I know there would be people here that could really benefit. And I think it's good to bring it up tonight in this context. I've always loved to see what happens at the meetings. And I mean, this being Financial Wellness Month, like HIP is a partner of the Renters Alliance, and for work I work with them. And there's a lot of good things that I think will come from the city funding a financial wellness center. But there's also just a lot of research out there that shows that for some people the numbers just won't add up. Even if they're doing all the right things. I think about Rutger Bregman, Jeff Madrick, people that support a universal basic income, something that Alexandria has picked up, and that I think. But there's other things that kind of related to rent relief. They call bridge programs in Fairfax. I think Rockville might even be doing it, realizing that coming out of county rent relief, there's some people that are going to be left behind, and they'll leave quietly, and we should keep them here because it's the right thing to do. And so I just want to put that on your radar, and I hope that we can all work together to do that. And I think that's okay. That's all I had to say.
30 more seconds if you want.
Okay. Let me just see what these... If I can decipher these notes at the bottom, I'll use the 30 seconds. No, that's enough. Thanks, y'all.
Okay. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Let me just check on Zoom. If there's anybody on Zoom tonight who'd like to speak, just use the Zoom raise hand function. Okay. Tech team, I see if you can bring up Lindsay Bowie, please. Lindsay, once you unmute yourself, just state your name, address, or neighborhood and go right ahead.
Hello, my name is Lindsay Bowie. I live at 935 Clapper Road at the Gateway Apartments. And I would like to actually talk about the Planning Commission meeting that took place on December 7th, which I viewed through public access television. It was about the building of an apartment building in Old Town next to the MARC train. That meeting, I had a breach of decorum, quite frankly, and I want to bring it up because there were homeowners there who were jeering, cheering, yelling, arguing with the developer, and making statements that I didn't, I'm a renter, and making statements like renters bring crime, renters are transients and not real community members, but I'm a renter. I'm on the PTA at Thurgood Marshall Elementary School. Before the pandemic, I was an ESL teacher with Montgomery College, and I was teaching at Gaithersburg High School in the evenings. Our family has ties to religious communities in the neighborhood, and we have family in this area. And so, I had a problem with that, but more so what I had a problem with was the inability of the commission to rein in those members of the community who had not made it a very inviting and, an inviting space for everyone there. Because if I had not seen it on television and had actually gone down, it would have been a very intimidating space for me. And that's not how we should be doing any of this. The second thing that I want to say is, we already know we have historic inequities in this country as to why some people can and cannot buy homes. And those discriminatory practices are well documented. So, what I'm trying to say is that we need to work together to try to rectify these past wrongs and make sure that we can make this an inclusive environment for all our residents. And that's my piece. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Lindsay, thank you very much for that testimony. Frankly, I couldn't agree with you more. And I hope you'll reach out and get more involved because we'd love to hear your voice and have you more involved in the city. Thank you. So I don't think there's anybody else from the public here, so we're going to move on to our public hearing and invite Eric Perla, our Assistant City Attorney, to lead us in this agenda item or this public hearing.
Thank you all. Good evening, Mayor Ashman and council members. Today I'm going to be introducing a draft ordinance to revise Chapter 17 of the City Code dealing with personnel. Specifically, the draft ordinance is to amend sections 17-1 and 17-9 of the personnel chapter These changes are to ensure that the personnel sections in the city code align with and are consistent with the Maryland Police Accountability Act, which is legislation that was passed by the Maryland General Assembly in 2021, which is effective July 1st, 2022. Essentially, the legislation creates two different entities, a police accountability board and an administrative charging committee appointed by the county to handle cases of police misconduct. It also repeals the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights. The proposed amendments, as you can see in section 17-1, adds a definition of police misconduct, which is consistent with state law, specifically Title III, Subtitle 101 of the Public Safety article in the Maryland Code. And then 17-9 deletes references to the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights and instead references the Maryland Police Accountability Act. Staff is requesting that the mayor and city council schedule the ordinance for a public hearing on January 3rd of 2023. No.
That's this.
Today.
That's today.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Hold on 1 second. Public hearing on policy discussion on February 6th, 2023.
Got it. Okay.
And with that, I'll take questions and comments.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. So again, what we have before us is just sort of what I call sort of housekeeping. We have to mirror what's in the Maryland Code. We have to make our code mirror what's in the Maryland Code. It's not really something that's being initiated by us. So any questions or comments before we go to the public? Not seeing any? Okay. Well, this is a public hearing. If we have anybody here who'd like to comment on this matter, the same rules apply. State your name and address or neighborhood. Do we have anybody who'd like to speak on this? Okay, not seeing anybody present. And then is there anybody on Zoom who'd like to comment or ask a question on this public hearing? Just use the Zoom raise hand function. Okay, not seeing any? Okay. Well then, the recommendation is we hold our record open until 5 p.m. on January 13th with anticipated policy discussion on February 6th. What's the pleasure of the council?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Carries 5-0. Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you. Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year. Next on our agenda is from the Mayor and City Council. We're going to start with Council Vice President Lisa Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be short before you. I want to wish everyone a happy 2023. It's fantastic to see the new year come in. I'm looking forward to a successful year with the city, within the city. I'm going to travel over to the world of local sports in Gaithersburg. I want to pay tribute to Joseph H. Holston, who arguably was the longest fan prior to his death on December 14th for the Gaithersburg Trojans. He had attended more games than any other person watching the Trojans play. So I want to extend my condolences to his family and friends for the loss and forever remember that he attended all those games and supported the Gaithersburg Trojans.
Didn't you see him at a game this season?
I did.
Yeah, I remember you talking about him.
Absolutely. So lovingly, he was referred to as Uncle Joe. So I look forward to the Gaithersburg team paying tribute to him, hopefully later this year. Also, we will be able to do that because we have a new head coach for the Gaithersburg Trojans, Sean Prather, who I had the privilege of calling classmate. We attended high school together. Sean was our QB1 at Magruder High School. He was a colonel that took us to the state champions where we won, and I will not mention the year. But I'm excited that he will lead the Trojans to hopefully many victories for this coming season. And that is it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. We'll go to Jim.
Thank you, Mayor. I will keep it brief as well. I also want to wish everybody a very happy new year. Hopefully, everything's getting off to a good start for you, and looking forward to working with Mayor and Council for the benefit of our great city. I did have the opportunity to go to one event over the holidays, and thank you to Ryan for the invitation for the menorah lighting at Rio. That was a very cold event, but it was a very good time to be there, and the mayor and Councilmember Wu and Lisa all were in attendance, showing our support, and it was just great to see the community come together to celebrate Hanukkah and the lighting of the menorah. So it was really nice to be there, and I want to let the community know, if you don't know already. Several of the neighborhoods in Gaithersburg were redistricted into District 39, and the legislative team of Senator King, delegates Acevero, Lopez, and Resnick will be holding a Zoom call Thursday at 7 p.m. So if anybody's interested in participating, those residents who live in D39, my neighborhood included, you can register at this website. It's a bit.ly address, so it's bit.ly/D39-01-05, and you can register to participate on the Zoom. And that's all I got. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Jim. We'll go to Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy New Year again, everyone. And I just want to recount a conversation I recently had with the mayor. Sometimes it's difficult to see the forest for the trees when you're in the day-to-day grind of doing the work of local government or community involvement or advocacy and volunteering. But when you take a minute to step back and sort of think about all the things that we've accomplished in 2022, it was a challenging year. It was a very difficult year for many. But in the big picture, we did accomplish a lot of great things together as a city and as a mayor and council. And so thank you, Mayor, for reminding me of that and setting the right tone for optimism and hope that we will do even better this coming year in 2023. We have a lot of opportunity to do that, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you to get that done. I wanted to congratulate our friends who represent us at the federal and state level, many of whom are about to be sworn in or have recently been sworn in, either as new members of their government bodies or as returning members of their government bodies. And obviously, we know that we work very closely with them as our partners in other levels of government, so wishing them the best and looking forward to working with them. And in that same vein, the opening day of the State General Assembly's legislative session is coming up next week on January 11th, and it's a tradition for many of us to head down there, have an opportunity to network with fellow municipal officials from around the state, as well as with our state legislators and other state officials, to make sure that we have the opportunity to advocate through our relationships on behalf of Gaithersburg and to the benefit of our residents and businesses. So we will keep you all apprised of that, and we'll report back after we've had the opportunity to go down to Annapolis. Earlier this evening, Council Vice President Henderson and I and a few members of our senior staff attended the annual Wells Robertson House holiday dinner at the Casey Community Center. It was a great opportunity to show our support for this wonderful program that we run here in the city. And so we wish them all the best and congratulate them on a good annual event. I also want to salute everyone who was involved in the proclamations, receiving the proclamations, and doing the work that earned the proclamations for the week of service, the Financial Wellness Month. These are all great programs that are near and dear to my heart, as well as all of our hearts up here. And I hope folks will take advantage of the great financial wellness services that we have here through the Empowerment Center and our other programs, because we have really invested in the idea here in Gaithersburg that it's better to work with folks and teach them how to fish than give them a fish. Sometimes you need to give them a fish, but the best outcome is for folks to have the tools and resources to, in the long term, succeed. And I look forward to seeing many of you at some of the Week of Service programs and events and opportunities to volunteer here in the community. And want to add my congratulations as well to our finance department for winning another GFOA award and for a clean audit and for all the work that they've been doing, including during a time of transition, as Tanisha said. And then, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to take a brief moment to address some of the comments that we received from the public tonight. Just want to reassure Mr. Van Ness that we have heard you and we are having discussions about both the salt issue and the Lake Varuna issue. As always, the devil is in the details, but I think the last time you were here, this is no judgment, but I think you had to leave after the public comment period, and there was some discussion up here at the dais about the information that you had shared with us. So I just want you to know we're thinking about it and trying to figure out how to address it. And Mr. Mullins, I'm sure you well know that we have a number of programs in place. We don't have as many resources, obviously, as the county and the state when it comes to rental assistance, but we do have a number of active programs, case management here in the city. We work closely with the county to be able to offer rent and utility assistance where we can.
And nonprofits.
And nonprofit partners who work closely with us to do that. And I would encourage folks who are in need to reach out to our Community Services Division, and they will help put you in touch with the right people, whether it's with a nonprofit partner or whether it's within the city or within the county government administration to do what we can. Although I understand there's always the need for the discussion about whether we can do more. But I do want folks to know that those programs are out there, and I know that you and others are doing your part to spread the word about that, and I appreciate your advocacy on that point. And then finally, Ms. Bowie, who testified through Zoom, I just wanted to echo the mayor and say that I agreed with everything she said as well. And in my own work and other aspects of my life, I've done a lot of research and advocacy on the issues of redlining and the historic structural racism in the housing system, and that is absolutely right, and we need to continue to do our part for equity and inclusion and reconciliation on those issues, and to try and put policies in place that pursue justice on that front. So I just wanted to take a brief period of time to address those issues. And then finally, I just wanted to kind of put a bug in the ear of staff. It's been, I guess, has it been 6 months since the Commission on Common Ownership Communities has been part of the city law? I don't know if it's 6 months. Is it?
Yeah, it started in July, I believe.
July, yeah. I don't want to be heavy-handed about this, but I think it might be worth just sort of checking up with our HOA and condo communities to see where they are on that, and make sure that, to the extent that they need to be registered with the CCOC, that they are, and if they're not, maybe we can assist in getting that done if it's appropriate. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. We'll go to Neil.
All right, well, thank you, Mayor. So I will also continue the sentiment of wishing everybody a Happy New Year. Hope everybody had great holidays, and that your diet and exercise resolutions are intact all of 3 days into the new year. Mine aren't, but I'll get better. I just wanted to go through some of the activities over the last few weeks, because it's been pretty action-packed, aside from the holidays. Participated in Leadership Montgomery's new Leadership Solves program, which is bringing some leaders from the community together to focus on economic development improvements for the county. It's been interesting, and we'll continue over the next while and see if we can come up with some great ideas. Attended the MML, the Maryland Municipal League chapter's legislative dinner, a chance for us to mingle with our legislators before they get to work on crafting legislation. The Kentlands tree and menorah lighting was a great event, nice night for it and great turnout. Attended the Gaithersburg Germantown Chamber of Commerce's annual awards dinner, always a great event. Most of the people here were there as well. The Committee for Montgomery's annual legislative breakfast, which is Fortunately, not a super spreader event, despite the fact that over 700 people were in the room, attended virtually by our governor-elect and by many other luminaries. Good chance to, again, to network with other people throughout the governments of the local area. Also attended the Council of Governments annual meeting for their board and their awards luncheon downtown. And finally, virtually attended the Transportation Planning Board's monthly meeting, and discussions there of interest to this group would be the presentation of the State of Maryland Zero Emission Vehicle Infrastructure Program. As you probably know, it's much more likely as we go forward that more of us will be driving battery operated or other zero emission vehicles, but we need infrastructure to make sure that you can charge them or somehow tank them up wherever you're going. So that is in the works for publicly available resources. And also a presentation of the Transportation Planning Board's annual update of this highway safety targets. Really robust program going into place for the states and municipalities of the region to improve highway safety. I'm pretty impressed with the work that's being done there. So that's it. I'll be stick to the wonkiness today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Neil. We'll go to Rob.
Thank you, Mayor, for putting me last so I can just ditto everybody else's comments. But particularly wish everybody a happy new year. I will add my thoughts and prayers to the U.S. Congress for their goat rope today. I look forward to the session tomorrow and likely into the rest of the week.
Thank you, Rob. I will echo and associate myself with everyone's comments too. Again, wish everyone a wonderful, wonderful 2023. Next week is a little different. Our work session next week will not be televised, but the public is welcome to come here and join us. We will be having a training session on the new harassment policy, ethics, and Open Meetings Act. So you're welcome to come. It will be January 9th, 7:30 p.m. here in this room. The next regular session of the Mayor and Council will be on Tuesday, January 17th, because of usually it'd be on Monday, but we have the Martin Luther King Jr. Day holiday on the 16th. Next, we have from the City Manager.
I have nothing to report this evening, Your Honor. Thank you for the opportunity and wearing the Buckeyes colors, and thank you, Lisa, for wearing the Browns colors, and happy 2023.
I have an excuse. I'm colorblind. Okay, economic development update. Tom Lonergan Seeger.
Giants made the playoffs. That's all. No, there's a little bit more. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of items for you tonight. Just a friendly reminder that the Maryland Department of Commerce's Business Telework Assistance Grant Program is still accepting applications, but just for a few more days. The program does provide grants of up to $25,000 to help businesses expand telework capabilities for employees. These grants will help applicants purchase equipment necessary to develop and implement telework policies, including hardware, software, and technical devices. Round one applications are due by this Friday at close of business. If more money becomes available, a second round will open up this spring. Information can be found in the Maryland Department of Commerce's website at commerce.maryland.gov. And I did just want to quickly shout out Kentland's own Lapu Lapu for being named one of the DC areas. I don't know if you saw this. Best casual restaurants in 2022.
Wow.
According
That's
to the
wonderful.
Post.
That place is great.
It is great. The spot located at 216 Market Street West, known for its American and Philippine-inspired breakfast sandwiches, landed at number 6. Not bad on the top 10 list.
Wow.
We wish them luck. Happy
Can you
New Year.
send us that link so we can
Sure.
all blast that thing out too?
Yeah. Will
That's
do.
great. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Next, we have ordinances, resolutions, and regulations, and I'd like to invite Mark Kyle to join us up here at the podium to talk about the I-270 NIST East Shared Use Path, and we also have Brian Fields. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Mark Kyle with Public Works Engineering Services Division. I've asked Brian Fields, Engineering Services Chief, to help display some of the items in your agenda packets this evening. Before I start the presentation, I would like to wish everyone a Happy New Year.
Thank you. To you.
The resolution before you this evening is provided in your agenda packets on page 175. The resolution is to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract for professional engineering services for the I-270 NIST East Share Use Path design. Based on the city's recent award of $200,000 granted by the Maryland Department of Transportation. In your packet this evening on page 173, Brian is showing an aerial view of the proposed path. You will find an aerial view of the proposed approximate 0.9 mile shared use path starting from West Diamond Avenue and paralleling the southbound lanes of I-270 along the NIST property approaching Muddy Branch Road. As you can observe, there are existing similar pathways around the NIST property, including a pathway that was recently completed along Quinch Orchard Road, a pathway along the front entrance of NIST, a community pathway in the Orchard Ridge neighborhood, pathway along Great Seneca Highway, Muddy Branch Road, and the future possibility of making a path connection with Conservation Lane, which is the southern portion of the NIST campus. The proposed pathway is anticipated to be approximately 10 feet in width, utilizing a cross-section similar to the cross-section indicated in your package tonight on page 174. The project is anticipated to need several retaining walls due to the grades in the area, which would be incorporated into the design. The project provides an opportunity to complete another important segment of the NIST path loop, which is centrally located in the city and accessible to all residents and visitors. This pathway would continue to increase the city's multimodal footprint. The pathway was originally anticipated to start design in July 2023 during the city's fiscal year 2024 budget. However, staff was recently awarded a $200,000 grant through the Maryland Department of Transportation Kim Lampier's Bikeways Grant Program. In order to accept the grant, the city must be prepared to award and proceed with the design of in early 2023. The $200,000 grant consists of reimbursement funding to support the design up to the 65% completion level. The grant agreement requires a support the design with a matching $50,000 matching contribution, which will be met with city funds and in-kind services by city staff. The grant funding must be used by June 2024 based on the MDOT schedule. City capital improvement project funding would then be used to fund the remainder of the design up to the 100% completion level. A request for proposals, on-call engineering services, RFP 2022-039 was issued on June 30th, 2022. On November 7th, 2022, the Mayor and City Council approved Resolution R55-22, an award contract to 7 selected firms. The design fee for the I-270 NIST East Shared Use Path at $500,000 exceeds the maximum that can be awarded under the on-call engineering services contract. However, since the on-call engineering services RFP was substantially similar to the scope of services for the design of the I-270 NIST East Shared Use Path, the on-call services RFP could be used by the city to determine a short list of qualified firms to design the I-270 NIST East Shared Use Path. Pursuant to the requirements of the RFP number 2022-039 and the scope of services for the I-270 East Shared Use Path, the city requested, received, and evaluated design proposals for the shortlisted firms. Based on the staff's evaluation of the proposals received, it is recommended that a contract be awarded to the most qualified, responsive, and responsible proposal meeting the city specifications, negotiated by staff and offered by Mead and Hunt, Inc., in the amount not to exceed $500,000. The contract with Mead and Hunt, Inc., if approved, will be executed after the city enters into a grant funding agreement with MDOT. Staff is requesting approval of the resolution to authorize the city manager to move forward with a contract with Mead and Hunt, Inc., in the amount not to exceed $500,000. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mark. Questions? Neil, and then Rob.
So do we have so this amount of money is strictly for the design piece of this. The actual construction, do we anticipate that the state or any other entity would be a partner of ours as we go forward?
Currently, there's no funds for construction from NDOT for the construction portion of this. So that is kind of where it currently stands.
So do we think NIST would be a potential partner as well?
So we have a meeting coming up on with them shortly, which we are. We've gotten positive feedback from NIST in general for the project itself. We are going to discuss any opportunities they're willing to help and support, but at this point there hasn't been any additional information provided on that side from NIST.
All right, and one last quick question is, the big one though, is what do we think the actual construction is likely to cost? Do we have a ballpark?
Based on previous information that was utilized with available resources, we're at like 2.2 million. That's again, rough order of magnitude, but that's kind of where we are.
Okay, thank you.
Rob Wu.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. So the property that it's going to be constructed on, who owns it?
It's going to be shared between 3 entities. You have the NIST property itself, which is federal. You have Montgomery County DOT property, which is on the Muddy Branch Road portion. And then we have the MDOT portion, which is along I-270 and West Diamond.
Okay, so necessarily we're going to have to negotiate an easement with NIST, so there's going to be some engagement.
There will be engagement from NIST, absolutely.
Okay, and then we hit them up with partnership money. Is the design, are you contemplating materials yet? Is it going to be the same type of permeable surface that was installed on Prince Orchard Road?
So it's at this point we're really early in the, we have to get the design kind of to that degree. That's subject to a lot of engineering principles. We hopefully will start with a lot of different components, but evaluation of the stormwater would be kind of key components of that. Whether pervious would be always an option. So.
Okay, and well, so if you're advancing to 60% design with this grant, you're going to be talking materials.
We will be.
So my urging would be that you one, don't preclude, and 2, perhaps look at the feasibility of advancing permeable surface. Now, obviously, if it's cost prohibitive, that's a different question, but if all things being equal, I would say permeable surface would be number 1 in my book. And then final question is, and this is probably beyond 60% design, this is a prime example of wayfinding signage in the city and marking out a new path and making sure people know that the path is actually there with wonderfully designed signage. And I know we have some money in the budget, but I'll keep pushing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm a regular bike rider of the West NIST path. I think it's fantastic. That is pretty much my loop coming down from Old Town down Muddy Branch. So when I saw where this is on the map, it kind of surprised me. I'm just wondering if this is premature. We don't have any agreements with any of the landholders. We don't have any right-of-way here, and we're looking at spending money to design something that we don't know if we're ever going to get buy-in. So I'm just wondering if that is a good use of that money. We have a bike path that comes down Muddy Branch Road in city property that comes all the way up to Clopper Road. So there is a way to do the loop. I do it all the time. So I was just it just surprised me that we're looking to do this, but we don't know if NIST will play ball. We don't know if the state will play ball. So why are we looking at spending money on the design?
So the original concept for this has kind of been around for a long while. Kind of predates me at the city itself. But this gives the city an opportunity to provide a path that kind of is central to the city itself. As you know, NIST is kind of the center of the city, and having this ability to kind of go around the city allows us to make connections throughout the city and kind of make spurs off of this network.
I think Dennis wanted to give a little, add something here too.
Yeah, Councilwoman Dolte, we do have a relationship. The actual current NIST path was actually a partnership between the state, the federal government, which is NIST, and us. And so we have worked with them. So we do have kind of this relationship about having a discussion about how that will all work. NIST gets a little bit complicated because they can't really deed land to anybody, so there are easements. So I think we believe we do have that partnership and we do have that commitment. On the funding side, that would be a question. There are a couple funding sources. I think one of the things that we're seeing on a lot of the transportation money is that we have to get it to the engineering stage before we can actually even get a federal funding in terms of transportation funding based upon how they're setting up the scenarios with this new federal legislation. That unless you have a project that's to a certain extent designed up to like 60% or so, it's very difficult to get them to fund the project. So I think we have the capability of doing that. The other option is we do have the transportation development tax money that could be used for this, and that's mainly what we've slated for that funding to be used for is bicycle improvements within the city, at least in the CIP currently. So
That's helpful, and thank you. I guess my concern is just, you don't want to spend that kind of funds if you don't have that relationship. So it's good to know that we think we can get there if we get to that threshold. Getting into the actual nitty-gritty of it, I agree with Councilmember Wu that the permeable surface that's on the west side is a very nice way to travel. I think it's also obviously the environmental benefits. It's interesting seeing that the path that comes through the backside of Orchard Ridge. I have taken that. It is very bumpy from roots. I know that's not part of this scope, but it's interesting seeing that was the loop that was being pondered here. Do we anticipate in looking at kind of the typical cross section, you mentioned the need for some retaining walls that, and forgive me for not knowing how to read this. We're anticipating a flat surface all the way through. There isn't going to be any stairs or anything like that. This would be just a trail all the way around.
Correct. It would be a shared use path open to all residents that can bike, walk. It's kind of used all the way around, multi-use. So, and there would be, needed retaining walls on the side of the path, but beyond that, that's all that we would be planning.
Yeah, I'm a proponent of these kinds of connections 100%, particularly as we start adding micromobility. I think those are important to be able to, have that ability from over near Festival to come over to the, to the Giant over there. I think that's an important cut through as long as we can get there. So thank you for answering my questions.
All right, thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up on what Dennis was saying, and Mark as well, this is an overall effort that's been ongoing for many, many years in sort of fits and starts, and it was exciting to actually get the portion at Quince Orchard Road after all of the many, many years of discussion and negotiation and putting together funding to get it actually constructed. I'm just curious, I don't know that it's actually worth staff's time to go back and look at this, but I'm curious what the timeline was over the many years as to whether or not, we started, funding that design of the Quince Orchard Road section, maybe not necessarily having, NIST and State Highway final easement approvals, but with the understanding that we were having ongoing discussions with them, we were all pretty much on the same page that that's where it was going. I think, based on sort of what Dennis was saying, that might be a sort of a similar situation here as well with the east side, is that, you're right, council member, that we don't have, final approvals from all these other levels of government, but if there's sort of a general understanding that was sort of always part of the overall plan, that I feel a little bit more comfortable that we can move forward with it. Also, relative to overall construction costs, if we are getting this large grant from the state, what we're laying out right now, balancing the risk and the cost, is relatively lower, and I think, makes me comfortable. I did want to ask some questions about the somewhat unusual procurement posture of this proposed contract. So the design fee is estimated at $500,000. Is that envisioned as a fixed fee, or is it something that would track the same fee mechanisms that are in place already for the on-call engineering services contract?
So with the intent that there is a specific scope that the consultants would perform that was provided to them. There is a breakdown that's a break at 65% that parallels the grant that we've been granted. Beyond that, we would continue up to 100% design. But there is individual tasks that's required, and it's broken down individually for them to complete.
I think Mark added the 500,000 is a not to exceed.
Right.
We wouldn't go above that without coming back to the council.
Right, okay. And then the idea here was that because time is of the essence in order to use the grant opportunity, that the competition that was in place for the on-call engineering services award is something we're sort of piggybacking off of, right? That's just sort of for the benefit of the public.
Yes.
That's what we're discussing here.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Neil?
So I just want to add one comment on the route for this is, I think, a great improvement over what exists today. As has been said, this is a popular route for bicyclists. I've taken it, today you have to go up all the way up Muddy Branch to Clapper, and then or West Diamond, and then along West Diamond with many cut-throughs, and it's really not the safest. Then you go under the tunnel under 270, which is not the cleanest and a little creepy depending on the time of day. So I think this route makes it a much more comfortable ride. So I think the concept is terrific. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of design.
Rob?
Thanks, Mayor. One final question. It's also about the route. It at no point is in the city of Gaithersburg. And so does that create any legal issues with respect to like maintenance later on, or
so this
things like that?
So this particular situation came up with the portion on Quince Orchard Road. There will be an agreement that gets worked out with NIST and MDOT and the city, as well as Montgomery County. But those are to be determined, and we'll work through those concerns.
Okay. And corollary to that, I guess, would be if you've got this path and it's no longer adjacent to a federal enclave, could we then annex Londonderry compulsory? Because it's now completely surrounded by the city.
That's a Lynn question.
Actually,
that is not, I can't answer that.
I will talk to Lynn about that one later.
Okay.
We might have to leave a little sliver then.
Okay. Jim?
Just a follow-up in looking at the map and how this would connect into existing path that's on the north side of NIST, and how that path continues to then cross the ramp that goes onto 270. There's currently a signal button there for the crosswalk, and there is nothing to turn on. So if there's any way to get the state to maybe connect it to something that flashes so that cyclists, pedestrians can cross that more safely, it is a bit dodgy to go across that.
Wait, do they cross it? Doesn't look like they do.
You mean at the ramp?
At the ramp, yeah. So the path continues on, and then it crosses at a crosswalk.
Yeah.
There's a button that you can push, but there is no signal there. And it's 2 lanes of traffic.
We'll add that to our discussion when we have the consultant on board, so with
Great.
MDOT.
Thank you.
Okay. Then would someone like to move the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, carries 5-0. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
from the city attorney?
Nothing for this evening.
And I don't think we have anything from any other staff. So as I mentioned, next week we will not be televised, but the public is welcome to join us for the training session we're going to have here for the mayor and council on the new harassment policy, ethics, and open meetings act. That will be Monday, January 9th, 7:30 p.m. And then the next regular meeting of the mayor and council will be on Tuesday, January 17th, 7:30 p.m. And that will be hybrid again, so you can participate in person or on Zoom. Until next time, let's do great things, Gaithersburg. We are adjourned.